raised a disturbing, released a disturbing video because they want to help find this assailant who ambushed two officers this weekend. Part of his law and order pitch in a mostly unmasked Nevada rally last night. And there's no proof that there's any connection to demonstrators. So is this going to help people figure out how they feel about this? Is it going to change their perceptions? Should they mix it? What do you think, Sonny?
Unfortunately, Whoopi, and I want to say that there's no place for people to go and shoot officers that are sitting in their cars. My heart goes out to their families and their friends. I was so horrified to hear about that. I have so many officers in my family and that are friends of mine. But to your second question, Whoopi, my understanding is that according to a new Fox News poll, more voters classify BLM unrest as riots rather than protests. And that is scary because that's feeding into this narrative that the Trump campaign has been putting out there. And if you really look at the facts, 93% of protests are non-violent. And in fact, when Trump has put in force, has put in federal enforcement, out of those 93%, the violence ratchets up, right? And so more than 5% of the protests actually that are linked to the Black Lives Matter movement that was met by force by authorities compared to 1% of other sorts of demonstrations like COVID protests or protests about being unhappy about not being able to go to the bar shop. And so this is manufactured by the Trump campaign, and I just wish that people understood that and knew that and just looked up the real facts about protests in this country.
You see, I'm not the only one saying this. I'm not the only one looking up the facts. I'm not the only one saying BLM protests are mostly peaceful and that there are outsiders coming into these protests, making them violent and creating the looting and the violence. I'm not the only one. There are people out here willing to look up the facts. Maybe you should start being one of them. But you're more willing to toe Trump's line. You're ridiculous. If you condone it, if you ignore the facts in place of some idiot's bigoted, racist, selfish, greedy narrative, then you own it. It is yours. Then you, yourself, are the bigot. You, yourself, are greedy. You, yourself, are unpatriotic. You, yourself, do not care about anyone in this nation other than yourself. You don't like us looking at you like that? Then I suggest you do something to change it. Because that's the only way we are going to see you. You did it to yourself. Don't go cry, baby. But I'm not a bigot. How could you say I'm a bigot? Take a look at what you're condoning. Take a look at what you're willing to accept for your own selfish reasons. If you're willing to accept this bigotry, if you're willing to accept children locked in cages, if you're willing to accept Trump's nasty little words, then yes, that is who you are. Because you do not have enough compassion in your soul to fight against it. And if you don't have enough compassion passion in your soul to fight against it, then you condone it. And if you condone it, then you agree with it. And that, my dear, is what makes you a bigot. Now is your time to decide to reject it and start looking up the facts. Facts is most of the good that Trump claims that he did was started under the Obama administrations with his job bills, with his economic bills. Everything Trump has done nothing but slow down the progress Obama started. Has hurt the economy. Obama has fought to bring back from the Bush administration's recession. But your own bigotry against a black man being in office blinds you to the facts. And don't say, oh, it's because, he wasn't a good president, not because he's black. If that was the case, then you would have been bothered to look up the facts instead of towing other people's lines who made themselves be bigots. And just because Mitch McConnell is married to an Oriental woman does not mean he's not bigoted against black people. Wake up. In fact, Mitch McConnell is bigoted against anybody who cannot give him money or advance his career and his power. He don't give a shit about any one of you people. Not a single solitary one of them. If you and Mitch McConnell was out on the street and a freaking steamroller was coming out at you, and the only way Mitch could save his own life was to throw you under that steamroller, he'd do it in a heartbeat. If you and Mitch McConnell were standing in a bank and the only way Trump could get, or Mitch McConnell or Trump could get their money out of the bank is if they threw you to a horde of zombies, he would do it in a heartbeat. And then he'd take your money too. Because that's who they are. That's the type of people they are. They're not just bigoted against black people. They are bigoted against people, any person who is not them. And if you can't get that, and if you can't start using your own brain and looking up the facts, then you are nothing more than part of the problem. You are not part of the solution. All of you people out there hollering about things Biden had did, 99 to 9/10% of them lies and QAnon bullshit. And you're not out there looking at what Trump is doing? All you people out there who bitched about Hillary using a private server for government emails, and you're not out there looking at what Ivanka did? You're a bunch of freaking bigots. Self-centered, greedy little assholes. That's all the more you are. You're nothing better than that. By your own choice. By your own omission of the facts. By your own willingness to accept children locked in cages. To accept Muslim bans. To accept the police brutality. And you're all out there surprised, shocked. Some guy went out there and shot 2 cops while they sat in their car. I'm horrified at it. It should have never happened, but I'm not shocked. I seen it coming, and more is going to come. If you people don't start waking up and demanding better. I mean, look, there's already been another man who was held down and beat. And then he gets put in jail for biting one of the officers who beat him, who were suffocating him. He passed out at least twice during the beating the cops were given. You tell me, if somebody's suffocating you, if you're not going to bite them. I sure in the hell would, if I had teeth. But these aren't mine. But if they were, not only would I just bite them, I'd bite a motherfucking chunk out of them. I'd chew on them like they were a piece of raw, rotten meat. So don't be making that man out to be the victim. And magically, somehow, warrants on this man came up. Just like on the man they shot 7 times in the back. But, oh, wait. After they cuffed him to the bed and said there were warrants on him, when there was pushback on that, they uncuffed the man and then said they forgave the warrants and never even explained what the warrants were or even showed proof of the warrants. Maybe there wasn't really any warrants. Could it be that the court hearing that he missed because of COVID? Could that be? Is that a possibility? And the cops knew they were wrong in what they were doing? Could that be? Now let's see if with this next guy that they beat to where his left eye, is almost swollen completely shut. Let's see if the warrants don't disappear on him, too. After the public gets mad at the fact that he was charged with assault on an officer for biting an officer that was suffocating him. Let's see how things change when the facts come out. And the officer's actions are proven. Because you know damn well there's going to be a change. And if you want this shit like this little freaking crackhead who came up and shot 2 officers to stop, and to make sure good officers do not get caught up in this bullshit, you need to get through those freaking police departments and start getting rid of the bad ones. 1, you need to do some cleaning in every single freaking law enforcement agency in the United States of America and remove, fire, get rid of, dismiss, and take away their pensions of every single officer who has done this kind of crap. You need to make sure that on every single application that they ever fill out again in the future has a full and transparent record of every misconduct or allegation or anything against them, and especially anyone that was proven to be fact. Every police department should know who they are hiring by their past conduct and be able to choose whether or not they're willing to accept that kind of conduct in their police department. And every officer who gets fired, I'm not talking about officers who get wounded on the job legitimately, who can no longer work. Yes, they should keep their pension. I'm not talking about officers who decided to leave the job early and take their pension. Yeah, they should get their pension. But any officer out there who gets fired for their own actions, the moment they are fired, their pension should be taken away from them. They should not have the right to collect it unless some other police department are full-hearted enough to rehire that man with a clear, transparent record of why he was fired. And then if he gets fired from that law enforcement, then guess what? He loses his pension again. Any officer who has charges put against them for assaulting a citizen and doing wrong to a citizen unjustifiably, like what happened to Breonna Taylor, that whole fucking hierarchy in the police force and the officers who entered her building after the actual person who did wrong was captured on a warrant and detained. And they still went into Breonna's apartment. Every single one of them should be brought up on charges and lose their pension. The chief who gave the go-ahead for that warrant on Breonna's apartment to be executed after her ex-boyfriend had been apprehended belongs having charges brought up against him. The officers who executed that warrant and entered that apartment without announcing who they were and shot Breonna belongs to lose their pension and be brought up on charges. The man who suffocated that man just recently, giving him a freaking swollen left eye without justification, belongs brought up on charges and lose his pension. Along with the person that was there helping him. You want to stop people from shooting officers out there that are not doing anything? Then you damn well better start doing something about officers like that. Because if you don't, more of that shit's going to happen. Because you're putting people in the position that they think their life is at danger, that their life is at a threat that at any moment and time they can be unjustly abused and murdered. You beat a dog, no matter how loyal it is, so many times, sooner or later, he's gonna rip your fucking throat out. It's just the way it is. And the population is getting to where they want to rip these officers' throat out. And it's starting to happen. And sadly, good officers are gonna get caught up in it. And you, the government, and the precincts that do nothing about it, and the unions that help to allow it to happen. You all are to blame for it. Every single one of you. For the inaction you take on making sure justice is done. For those who were wrongfully arrested. For those who were wrongfully assaulted. For those who were wrongfully murdered by officers. It's on your head. It's not just the person who shot those officers. It is not only his fault. He pulled the trigger. But you're the one who set up the situation. Your hand was right on top of his hand as he pulled that trigger. You're just as much to blame. And every single one of you little Trump-Ludite idiots out there who are unwilling to look at the facts and demand better, you're just as much to blame. Every one of you who keeps silent to Trump's bigotry, you're just as much to blame. Every one of you that denies what's happening and accuses peaceful protesters of being rioters, you're just as much to blame. This is all on you. Am I saddened by what happened? Yeah, I am. In fact, I'm saddened to what's happening to our nation as a whole for the last 4 years. We are no longer America, the land of the free, of equality, of justice. We were a shot shy from it as is. But since Trump's been in office, we have strayed so much further away from it, it's not even funny. Equality? That's for the rich. Justice? That's for the rich. And it's not even justice. It's the ability to pay off the system to get out of justice. Or to have people like Mitch McConnell there to deny justice. We don't have justice anymore. We don't have equality anymore. The only thing we have is the rich and the poor. The middle class don't even really exist anymore. We've got People dying on the streets. We've got people shooting officers without discretion. And officers shooting citizens without discretion. Unarmed citizens even. And we call this America. It was bad before, but it's so much worse now. And Trump keeps condoning it. He keeps stoking that fire. He's got that little thing that you start puffing along to make that fire hotter and hotter and hotter and hotter and hotter until he melts the metal of our American society. And Trump has Putin there patting him on the back. Oh, you're doing such a good job, Trump. And because of Trump's own ego, and it's not just Putin, it's other countries too. And Trump's own ego is standing there going, yeah, I'm doing so good, as he watch our nation be set on fire. And you Trump Luddites standing there puffing him up are no better than Trump himself. You're greedy. You're selfish. You're bigoted. And you are full on un-American. There is nothing American about you and nothing patriotic about you. I have always thought the white supremacists out there and the Ku Klux Klans out there were unpatriotic. And they disgust me. And they should disgust any true human being, let alone true American out there. But you all just bring in your blind eye, close your ears, and shut your mouth because of what you want, because of what's best for you and you alone, because maybe you're one of those billionaires out there who got that gigantic tax break that is bankrupting our treasury. You're shameful. You're not even Americans. You're barely human. You're nothing. And you're willing to try and let it happen for another 4 fucking years. If you think it's bad now, think how much worse it's gonna get when Trump no longer needs you and your vote. It's gonna get far worse because he no longer has to worry about any citizen. The only thing he'll have to worry about are his Republican lapdogs. And they're no better than he is. It's not a single solitary one of them can give a shit about the citizens of the United States of America. Every single one of them are no better than ISIS. Now,